What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Dream Huge podcast. Man, super excited for this one today. Oh man, we love to share success stories from other huge dreamers, movers, shakers, influencers, folks in the real estate business, and more. And hopefully these stories will help to motivate and inspire you to dream huge. And today we are joined by my co-host, Mr. JP for 3, John Pavlansky. What is up, JP?
What is going on, Pete, man? I'm ready. I'm ready to talk some real estate today. I'm ready to talk with a good friend of mine and really learn more about his journey into the real estate world. So it's going to be an exciting episode, and we're going to learn a lot. So, Pete, how are you doing, my man?
Excellent, man. I thought I'd change it up, go a little colorful today. You can actually find this at dreamhugeshop.com if you're looking for one of your own. But man, I'm telling you what, I get all worked up on these podcasts, and I'm getting hot already, so I'm going to have to lose that sucker. But man, I'm super excited. Our guest today is Tim Dye. He's got an amazing story. Kind of started out in corporate America. He's an Ohio guy, kind of started out in corporate America and took a different direction and got into real estate. So Tim, how are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me today, guys.
Yes, thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do and how it is that you got there.
Yeah, no problem. My story is pretty interesting. I was born and raised in Columbus. I'm a product of Columbus Public Schools. So I like to tell people that I have street cred and I came straight from the hood. Not really true. I mean, I was like on the northwest side of Columbus, so it's like a better part of Columbus. But I did graduate from Columbus Public Schools, proud of it, still stay connected with that. Then after I did go to college, after school, I got into home building, actually. I started with Ryan Homes, learned the ins and outs of residential construction, which laid a really good foundation for the rest of the story that I'm about to tell you. Stayed in home building, learned construction for a bit, and then took a totally bizarre turn in 2007. So those of us that are a little bit familiar with the history of real estate know that that was an important time because right after that, real estate collapsed. I got out of it right before then. I did not know, I'm not smart enough to know that was coming. That was pure dumb luck. But I went to work for Apple, actually, totally different. Yes, the Apple. I was there for 10 years in the retail environment. So I helped open the stores in Columbus, hired the team, hired managers, helped open the store up in Toledo, multiple new stores. That was absolutely great company to work for. I loved it. Loved the people I worked for. But, what was wearing on me was corporate life and corporate America. Any big company, no matter what big company it is, no matter how hard they work to make it great for their team, it's still going to have things that are just necessary. All the conference calls and the chain of command, and there's some politics involved. I'm not the type of guy that likes to be on a conference call, kissing butt, doing any of that. I'm just not good at that. I'm a worker. I want to put my head down. I want to work. I want to do a good job. I could care less if people recognize me for it. But I don't want to have to be kissing butt. So to shorten the story, I decided to cut ties with corporate America and just go crazy and left a 6-figure job to become a real estate investor. I knew a little bit about construction, obviously. I owned a couple rental properties, but had no idea what I was doing when I owned the rental properties. Completely screwed those up, but learned a lot. So I essentially burned the bridges and just said, screw it. I'm gonna take a chance. This is what I'm gonna do. So for a couple years, I flipped a few houses, stumbled my way through that. But the one thing that I have going for me is I'm a systems guy. I understand systems. I know how to hire people. I know how to put people in the right spot and kind of just let them do their thing. And so I just built this system over time and went from flipping 3 houses my first year, just trying to survive and feed my family, to 30 houses the second year, 70 houses the third year, and just kept cranking it up. And so I left Apple in 2016. And by 2019, we're just like this massive house flipping machine. And at one point in 2019, I remember turning around and we had 14 rehabs going at one time. And then a light bulb went off that was a little much. Flipping that many houses one time is a little crazy. So I just scaled it back down and decided to focus a little bit more on rental properties. And so since that time, really over the last several years, I've scaled down the flipping and scaled up the buy and holds. And so now our primary goal is to purchase buy and hold properties, and we just flip here and there. It's quite frankly, flipping houses is easy for me now because the systems are in place. All the people are in the right place, all the systems. And so I don't pass up opportunities to flip. I do that because it's very easy for me. But the long-term goal for wealth building is buy and hold. And so that's part of that's kind of how I ran into JP. We've expanded some of our area to be up, a little bit closer to the Mansfield area in some of our operations. We've gone out towards Dayton in some circumstances. And and now we're getting into multifamily. I'm a partial owner on several multifamily properties of 100 units or more. Some are in North Carolina, some are in Mississippi. They're just kind of all over the place. So just continue to expand that portfolio. And that's kind of where we are now. We have a flipping operation. We do wholesale some properties, but really the long-term goal is buy and hold as many properties as possible. So that's my story.
Love it. We've had that theme, from real estate investors starting out. Well, there you go further back. A lot will start out wholesaling because they don't have any money.
Yep.
And then you'll get into flipping, or they'll flip with OPM, other people's money, and then they move from flipping into buy and hold because that's truly the way to create wealth. So when you began flipping, were you using your own money on those?
Yeah, that's a great question because that's one thing that I figured out pretty quickly. A lot of people struggle with the money piece. I figured out pretty quickly how to use other people's money. I knew that was necessary for scaling. And so one of the first things I did right out of the gate is I started understanding why do private money lenders lend people money? I knew there was money out there. Like I knew there was money sitting on the sidelines. I just had to figure out how to tap into that and how to get people to understand and trust me. And so I went hard to work on that and just networked like crazy. I told everybody about what I was doing. I learned from a good buddy of mine. Actually, you've had him on your podcast before, Austin Rutherford. Austin and I have known each other for a long time, and like Austin's amazing. He got really successful when he was young, and yet it's been a cool relationship because he got into it before me, and so I reached out to him, and he was helping me with some things. And then as I grew, and with my background in leadership and hiring, and just being a little more experienced in the world. That's a fancy way of saying I'm older than him. I'm an old man and he's not. He started asking me some questions, which is really cool. So we've helped each other a lot in different things. But anyway, Austin told me, he's like, when anybody asks you what you do, you just stop saying you're a real estate investor. Stop saying you flip houses. He told me, when people ask you what you do, just say, I help people that don't know anything about real estate get invested in real estate and earn a nice fixed income, a nice fixed return without doing any of the work. And that's it. And so when people would ask me what I do, that's what I would say. And you'd be surprised how many times the next question that comes out of our mouth is, what do you mean by that? Tell me more about what that looks like. I'm like, oh, funny you ask. And so, I would explain a little bit more, or we'd set up a time to grab lunch or coffee. And I did that for a long time, and it just kept leading to more and more places. So that's a long way to answer your question. But what I was saying is, I was using other people's money almost immediately. I did have money to invest. I did have money to use that because we had built a certain cushion before I left my corporate job at Apple. But I knew if I just took my money and bought a house and used rehab, and then bought another house and was rehabbing until one of those closed, that wasn't going to go anywhere. That's not scalable. So I've been very good at finding and utilizing private lender money, and always have been. And I'm really to the point now where I can't even keep people's money busy. I have what's essentially I call a waiting list of lenders and investors that have $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000 that want me to put it to work on something. And I just say, like, look, I got I have multiple projects going, but you're going to have to wait until I get more in the pipeline to put it to work, which is a great problem to have, obviously.
Oh yeah. That's a terrific problem to have.
Yeah.
And we did have Austin on here. I don't know if you mentioned that. My computer lagged out a little bit, but we did have Austin on here as
Yeah.
well, and he kind of
Yeah.
gave us a little bit of a rundown on how he utilized that OPM. So how exactly are you structuring how are you structuring these deals when using other people's money to buy the properties?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways. I kind of just try to learn from them first, the lender. Like, what are their goals? What do they want their money to do? Because sometimes new investors just make assumptions and they just start blurting out these ideas, and sometimes it actually hurts them. Like sometimes investors will blurt out like, "Hey man, like if you got $100,000, I'll give you 2 or 3 points and 12% and you know 10% of the net proceeds." And like, well, what if they were going to give you 9% and no points and they want any equity? Like you just don't know. So there's that piece, but I have lenders that some of them want it to just stay busy longer, and so sometimes I'll just say, look, I can utilize your money and invest it in this buy and hold rental property, and just pay you like after I get an understanding what interest rate they're kind of looking for, and I can pay you 8% or 9% with quarterly payments for 5 years if that's what you want, or monthly payments. And I try to be very flexible and structure it in a way that works for them and kind of just meets their goals of what they want to do. If they just want something that's just going to stay busy for 3 months or 4 months because they've got a gap between other investments they want to do, then using it on a flip at maybe a little bit higher interest rate or maybe a couple points instead works for them. So I do it a lot of different ways. Sometimes I'm just using it on flips. Sometimes I'm using it on longer buy and holds and just making uh, quarterly payments, or I try to do quarterly. I don't like having to mess with the paperwork of monthly, but some people want monthly payments. So again, I'm adaptable. But ultimately the long-term goal is, if their interest rates are a little bit higher than I'd be getting with a bank, eventually we're going to refinance them out of it. But then the goal is we're just going to use it all over again. And we've done that a lot. We've bought rental properties with other people's money. And then after 9 months or 12 months or 18 months, we've refinanced it into longer term debt with a bank, but then we're trying to immediately put their money right back to work to buy another property. And that it's no accident that that's how I got up to, 80 doors here in the Columbus area and, you know, 400 some plus units with the multifamilies. It's the same reason. It's just through that scalability of other people's money.
Um, is it generally a return only, or are you ever offering equity, tax benefits, and so forth?
Yeah, for the most part, it's just a return, an interest rate return. But lately, I have had people that have been approaching me, and people are just like I said, my reputation is kind of out there because I've been doing this for a few years now, and so people come to me and said, hey, I have this large sum of money, and I want to figure out how to be an equity partner in real estate, but I don't know anything about it. And so for a while, I would say I was probably a little more stubborn about not giving it anyway, any equity because I didn't need to. But I've kind of like wisened up and said, look, if you're okay with me buying this, with us buying this 8 unit building in Bucyrus or this 12 unit building over here, I'll give away part of the equity if they're going to fund most, or even in some cases, all of the project. So I've become a little more flexible in allowing people to do that. And so I do have a couple projects going where I did give away a big portion of the equity, but they funded the entire thing. I'm doing all the work. I found the property, I'm stabilizing it. They're still, and the cool thing about those people, like some people cringe when they hear that on if they're the money partner side, like, what do you mean? I'm going to supply all the money, but so you're not going to have any money in it, and yet you own part of the property. But the thing is, what I tell them is, I'm batting 100% at executing on this and refinancing and getting your money back. So to have that attitude is very short-sighted. The better way to look at it is, you mean if I told you that 2 years from now you could be a 50% owner of this, small apartment building without having any money in it because we refinanced it and gave you your money back, and you didn't do any of the work, you didn't find the property, you didn't rehab it, you didn't place tenants, and yet you're going to pass up on owning half of this building? I'm like, it's not the smartest move in the world. And that's when they turn around and go, you know what, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, on
So
top of that, with
that's
none of the headaches either, with none of
right.
the headaches of ownership.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty sweet the way that I present it people like to people. If I say, look, you're in 2 years, you're going to own half this building. You're not going to do any of the work. You're going to have no money invested. And I'll like mess around with them and say, what is the return rate on $0 into a real estate investment that's appreciating by 6%? You're getting these tax advantages and this cash flow. And they're kind of like trying to figure out, I'm like, here, let me give you the answer. It's infinity. It's infinity return rate. And I promise you're not getting infinity return rate in the stock market. And that's when people kind of like light up and say, okay, now this is starting to make a little more sense.
Tim Dye, infinity return rate real estate
That's
investments.
right.
That's
right.
that's going on the
I'm
TV.
ordering it right now. It's just going to have a TD inside of the infinity symbol. And people are going to ask, what does that mean? And let me tell you what that means.
That's the logo. It's so true. Infinity returns. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have zero invested. That's what's great about getting creative with real estate. Tim, where do you find your deals?
Most of our deals are off market. I don't buy many on market. I'm not the type of guy that says there are no on market deals. There definitely are. Quite frankly, I'm just too lazy to weed through them and find them because they're just harder to find. And everybody's looking for those. So, we're really good at marketing. I tell people all the time, we're really at our core a marketing company. We are a real estate company. That's how we obviously make our money and our returns. But the bread and butter of us being successful is marketing. So 90% or more of our deals are done by direct to seller marketing. I'm on the radio in Columbus. That's been good for us. It's a very low quantity, but high quality lead source. You don't get a lot of calls from that because people will kind of go to our website and they'll understand what they're getting into and they look up our reputation and then they're like, oh, these guys know what they're doing. So by the time they do call us, they're pretty good leads. But radio is obviously expensive, but the ROI still works. So direct marketing, radio, we use postcards. We change those up all the time, letters. We've done some pay-per-click on and off. So just, all the traditional direct to seller type marketing. I will say that networking has increased its share lately in the last year. And again, that's kind of where John comes in. I know people up in the Mansfield area. They know that I'm going to close. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, period. And that means something to people, obviously. I get deals sometimes that people could sell for more to someone else, but they're a little unsure about their track record because people know who I am. They know my track record, and they know, like, look, I'll sell this property for $5,000 or $8,000 less to Tim because I know he'll close in 2 weeks, and I know he'll get it done when he says he's going to get it done. So networking has expanded a little bit more lately as part of our lead pipeline.
Back to the marketing piece. How many pieces are you sending out per month on average? And what's your total marketing spend per month on average?
So traditionally at our peak, we were spending $25,000 per month in marketing, but it was recycling and returning. We've toned it down a bit lately. So we're probably spending more like $12,000 to $15,000 a month lately. And pieces wise, I'll have to go back and look because I don't manage it. I have somebody managing it for us, but I think we typically send about 2,500 to 3,000 pieces every week that's just constantly going out. And I'm sure you've had people talk about before, and you guys know this, marketing is a numbers game and it's a consistency game. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. You got to keep it moving. You got to keep it moving. You got to stay in front of your target audience because you never know. They may not be a good candidate today or next month or 6 months from now, but if you stay in front of them when that light bulb does go off, like, look, I got to get rid of this house. I'm going to call that freaking SOB Tim that's been mailing me for freaking 3 years, and bam, there you go. Now there's that's where it comes through. And so that's kind of our strategy.
Amazing.
Love it.
Amazing. And everybody's got to know you. How are they going to come to you and how are they going to utilize you if they don't know who you are and what you do?
Yeah. Exactly. Especially with a big transaction like that, like people selling their house that they've lived in for 20, 30, 45 years is a big deal. And there's a lot of weird stuff going on that they perceive as scams and things. And so, sellers tell us all the time that they choose us because they trust us. They know us. They've heard our name. They've heard me on the radio. They've seen us on Better Business Bureau. They've read the Google reviews. Like, we'll show up and they'll have a stack of postcards this thick, and they'll show them to us. And they'll say, but I decided to call you guys and sell my house to you because of your reputation.
It's amazing. And you mentioned another thing I want to hop into is you mentioned this flip system. You said that, it's I don't know, Pete, have you ever heard somebody say it's easy to flip houses? It's so easy now. I don't know. That's a new one, man.
When you got systems in place that makes things easier, I guess is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And we're going to ask you about your favorite books, and I got one in mind that maybe you're going to mention, but what does that system look like? If you can share maybe kind of a little bit with the viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's just an example. I'm just going to pick on JP a little bit. Like, John, how many times have I asked you to, go do a final walkthrough at a house we're flipping, right?
Yeah.
I mean, now not every agent will do that, but it's no secret why John does high volume, because he's doing little things here and there for people that maybe other agents aren't doing. That's part of my system. I try to build relationships with people that see the big picture and see, like, when John takes care of me on the stuff that we do together, I know that he knows that I'll continue to utilize him to list our properties. And so that's one minor example, but the people that I work with, they understand the big picture. So, like, our contractor, like John's commented several times on the contractor we use, like, he comes from Columbus with his crew. He's there every single day, never misses a day. They work their butts off, and they get out of there, and they do good work, and they'll stand behind it. If something's not right, they'll go fix it. And so, like, I know, and I'm using that same contractor, as long as I take care of him and I pay him on time and I communicate with him, that he'll continue to work solely for me. And that's basically what we've been doing for years. So I set up systems where the other people understand and they take care of me just like I'm taking care of them. Other systems involve, like, just our technology system. We're very organized electronically using Google Drive, and everyone has access to the documents and that sort of thing. So I have an office manager that, knows how to organize everything, make sure bills are paid on time, all that kind of stuff. So those are some of the systems in the flipping that just take care of itself. We use essentially the same materials from Home Depot every single time, with a few exceptions. We know what appeals to the masses, and we use the same stuff. The contractor isn't calling me saying, what color kitchen faucet do you want, or whatever, so, like, that's the kind of stuff that we just make efficient and keep utilizing. Excuse me, guys.
That's how you do it, folks. All right. Any final thoughts before we get on to the huge four and the rapid fire round, Tim?
No, I just appreciate you guys having me on. I'm a little bit worried about what the rapid fire round is.
We're gonna have some fun.
I don't have a system to work with your system, with your questions here, so
yeah,
catch me off guard.
Oh yeah, are you ready for the huge four, baby? All right. Let me hit you with the huge four. What's the one thing you wish you would have known when you began your career?
I'm going to say how important perseverance is. That means, like, I tell new investors all the time that this job is really hard at the beginning, and that's part of what weeds people out. That's why people quit. So I probably would have coped with the stress a little more of having my own business and doing this the first couple of years if I'd have just known that was just a huge. I just had to learn it, like, by going through it. But I kind of wish I knew in advance to kind of harden myself going into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the entrepreneurial mindset right there. Is figure it out as we go.
Yep.
And keep pushing forward. I experienced the same stuff, man. I'm like, I have no idea. I'm learning things, and as we're moving along and putting new systems in place, and you figure it out as you go. That's what the great ones do, and they keep moving, persevere.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Never give up, man. Never give up. Next one. What was your biggest failure, and what did you learn from it?
Whew. I mean, I would have to say, and this might be a common with real estate investors, I've definitely had a couple of different projects that just lost a lot of money on. And it just feels incredibly devastating and makes you want to stop. But, I will say, and this is the advice I would give people, when you're in this business long enough, you're going to lose money at some point. And so change your mindset and to think of the money that you lose as an investment, like a college tuition. So some people pay 20, 30, $40,000 a year or more to get an education. I've paid tens of thousands of dollars to get an education on certain projects where I've lost money and learned from those and how to not make those mistakes again. So I just now view them as investments and part of my education cost. And, just pick yourself up, learn, and move forward.
Could you give us a couple examples of items that you lost on specifically?
Yeah. So, there's Columbus has a few pockets of historic areas that are controlled by the historic commissions of different neighborhoods. Extremely difficult to work through those places. The costs just keep adding up because, the standards are very subjective. It's not black and white what they want there. So, I got into a couple projects where I essentially learned that we're going to have to replace windows, and the windows have to be these historic wood windows that are $1,500 a piece, and there's multiple windows and, just crazy stuff like that. And then, you think you're plugging along because you heard from one person that this is accepted to do this in the house, and then they come out for their inspection. And just because it's this other person's opinion on the commission, they decide that that's not appropriate and you got to change it all and do it all over again. So I would just say that a couple of the projects with historic houses, with historic commissions, not only is it more expensive to rehab because they're so old and you just come across all these things you couldn't see behind the walls, but you also have these commissions that are just so subjective to work with. And then, they make a quick decision of the pen and you're out another, $35,000 on a project.
Hmm.
So generally speaking, we stay away from those completely now.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Tim Dye, Infinity Returns Real Estate University.
InfinityReturns.com. That's what I got to look up that URL. It's got to be taken already. Somebody has it, I'm sure.
Okay. What are the best resources that have helped you along the way?
Surrounding myself with people, networking, masterminds. I've been in a few masterminds and they've been very good. I think masterminds are key when you put into them more than what you want to get out. The people that join masterminds and get frustrated are the people that think they're just going to pay money and then just sit there and like through osmosis, they're just going to become, millionaires. And it's just not the way it works. You got to take action. You got to put yourself in front of the people. You got to ask a lot of questions. You got to practice what they're teaching you. You got to, get feedback, all those things. So, so people are the key. And, I've been extremely successful because of the people around me. And not only people very, very close. I mean, even, people like my wife or my really close friends that are investors, but just, people I've, met along the way, like, even like John, again, is another example. Just surrounding yourself with those type of people that understand, how to help each other win is a huge part. I definitely equate that more than books or, podcasts or anything. Those are important too. And they help supplement, give you some new ideas, but just trying to keep yourself constantly around, really smart people that are, kind of that are doing things that you want to do is tremendous.
Love that. I love that. And one of our guys that we had on the podcast a while back, he just made a clothing brand, and I just made a video on it today, and I love it because it's called People Made. I'm not self-made. A lot of people say I'm self-made, and you're not. Everybody's made from other people, connections, relationships. So I just want to touch on that too. That's a great one, and we don't hear that.
Like that. Have you checked out Collective Genius, Tim? Are you part of them at all?
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
Okay.
But I've never actually been a part of them. I know several of their members.
Okay. Just curious because I know they do a lot of the things that you're doing. Our buddy Brad Parton is with Collective Genius. I checked them out. They seem to be really awesome. I just never made the commitment, but
Everybody
Anything
that
along
I've
those
known
lines.
that's been part of their group has been happy with it. I've considered it a couple times and just never taken the time. It seems like I'm always involved in another mastermind or something when it sort of comes up in my mind.
Yeah, gotcha. Just curious.
All right, last one for the huge four. What are two books that have inspired your success?
So I'm almost embarrassed to admit I'm not a huge reader. I do read some books. I listen to a lot of podcasts and so forth. But if I were to choose, I would say, one of the, you probably hear this one very commonly, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's part of what just got the light bulb clicked, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago when I just was starting to really think about doing something different than corporate America. So, I won't go into details on that book because I think a lot of your listeners are probably familiar with it. And if they haven't read it, they definitely should. Um, and the other one is probably a little bit less known to maybe some of your audience, but it's been really important to me in my business, and it's Profit First. Are you familiar with that book?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So I'll just summarize it very quickly. Profit First is essentially an accounting strategy. It's not a boring accounting strategy. It's an accounting strategy that it completely changes your mindset to where when you have revenue or income coming in, it applies to any business, by the way. It doesn't have to be real estate. In fact, when he wrote it, it wasn't intended to be for real estate, but a lot of us applied it to real estate. When you have revenue coming in, you essentially take your profit and your pay for yourself first immediately when your revenue comes in, and set that aside. So whether you're a t-shirt shop or a cookie shop or real estate investor or a realtor or whatever you are, you the revenue comes in and you immediately take these small chunks and move them into these different accounts so they're out of sight, out of mind. Then what's left, you force yourself to run your business on what's left. It's kind of like when you go to lose weight and you just use a smaller plate and just use that strategy. And look, whatever fits on your plate, on that little plate, that's it. You got to figure it out. Whatever fits on that plate, you may still be a little hungry, but you got to be disciplined. And so that was a huge turn from our business because, and luckily my accountant got on board with us doing it that way. And now we still run it to this day. That was years ago. So just to apply it to a real life example, if we flip a house and the revenue comes in for that, to this day, the within the first couple hours, we put, maybe it's 12% in owner compensation, 5% in taxes, 10% in marketing, 2% in community service. Like we always have a percent that we give back to the community or sponsor youth baseball teams or whatever. We do all that immediately. And so whatever that percentage is, and we have to adjust that percentage every quarter or so based on the business or whatever, but whatever's left, whether it's 65% or 60%, we run the business with that, and that's it. Like, and if we need to be more lean and we need to cut things here and there, then we'll cut to make it work, but that's how we do it. And so that's called Profit First. And it's essentially a strategy that take your profit first and then run your business after that. The traditional way, obviously, is your revenue comes in, you pay all your bills, you pay your taxes, and then you hope to God that for the owner, something's left and you might be able to buy groceries for your family. My wife and I, we don't view our business that way. We have a business that's supposed to serve us, and that's the way it's going to be. And so, it's designed to serve us and feed us and help grow our family. And that's just the way that we view it. And we will refuse to look at it the other way around, where we have to find ways to support the business.
I love that.
It's a great mindset.
Yeah.
And Grant speaks to that, something similar. He says, keep very little cash. Keep very little cash. Right. Live off your both in your personal checking and in your business accounts. And live and work off the operating expenses. Off the operating capital, I should say. And keep that cash invested. Or keep that cash busy, or in your case, and in what we should be doing, keep the cash for yourself, and use other people's money and keep that money busy. But the idea is, work off that working capital.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Okay. Are you ready for the rapid fire round? Here we go. What is your spirit animal, Tim Dye?
Spirit animal. It has to be a wolf.
Love it. Wolf. That's a new one.
Yep. Yeah. It's got
Can we
to
get
be
a
a
howl?
wolf. I've always loved wolves. Like I just think that they're just sleek animals are out there, just sort of always on the prowl, super smart. They know when to work together. They know when to work alone. So just always had high respect for wolves.
Love it. Love it. All right, these next two are pretty light. What's your favorite movie?
Oh, um, so I have two boys. My boys are 14 and 12. And so, my daughter's in college, but the boys and I have always been kind of like a sucker for superhero type movies, all the Marvel movies, all that kind of stuff. So I still say to this day that it's not one movie, it's the Dark Knight trilogy with Christian Bale. Because I'm a sucker for superhero movies, I still think that's the best set of superhero movies that's ever been made. And that's like I don't watch a lot of movies over and over again, but that's one of the few that if like the Dark Knight is on or the Dark Knight Rises, I can still watch it. I've probably seen it 20, 30 times.
Love it.
Excellent
Those are
stuff.
good
We're
flicks.
Biggie when we need him.
I know it. I know it. He's got a full Batman chest tat, man.
Oh, really? Wow. That's intense. That's a lot.
Yeah, you don't have one of those, do you, Tim?
No, I do not. I don't have a. Mine is just an infinity tattoo.
Okay. Infinity Man.
Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite food?
So my favorite. Have you guys been to Nashville?
Yes.
Okay. So there is. If you go back to Nashville, if you've never been to Monell's, are you familiar with Monell's? So my favorite food is just like Southern home style, home cooked meals. So I do love a nice steak. I love nice fish, whatever. I totally get into that. But my favorite restaurant is called Monell's in Nashville. It's family style. You go in. It doesn't matter if you're with two people or 14, they have room for you because they're going to put you at this giant picnic table anyways. I mean, it's huge. It spans this, it's a massive, it's almost like a cafeteria. You just sit down and you're going to eat what they're making. There's no menu. You don't order. So once you sit down, they bring out sweet tea, lemonade, ice water. Then they start bringing out cornbread and rolls and green beans and fried chicken and turkey and mashed potatoes. And like, it's all amazing. And you sit in these big bowls and then you just pass it around and everyone takes what they want. And it is so good. My mouth's watering thinking about it. And they do it for breakfast too, same thing, where they'll bring out like cinnamon rolls and they have scrambled eggs and French toast and pancakes and bacon and sausage. And it is just completely unbelievable. So I promise anybody listening, watching, you will not go wrong if you just go to Monell's and just it's the most amazing food ever. If you like Southern home cooked meals, then it's absolute perfection.
Monell's.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Let's go. I'm heading there now.
There's a couple of them down there, but I think they're both the same. You can't go wrong either way.
Amazing.
Besides Monell's, what do you do in your spare time?
So I love going to the gym. I don't sacrifice that time. I'm every day. It's just sort of my own personal time. I put my phone on do not disturb, and so that's one. And then in the summer, my family, we're big boaters. We like to get out on the boat. So we spend a lot of time in summer on the boat. It's always been one of our, kind of family things that we like to do together. And the kids will take friends and do that. In the winter, that's a summer thing. In the winter, we're a huge hockey family. My boys play hockey. We're CBJ season ticket holders. So we're there dozens of times every year and spend a lot of time at hockey rinks.
Love
Nice.
it. Love it. You say you work out. Do you know we're with an Arnold winner over here?
No,
Second
did not
place
know.
with the Arnold this year.
You serious?
Yeah. Don't be
Man,
modest, Pete.
I'm gonna Google this as soon as we get off.
That's the amateur. That's the Arnold amateur. So you guys would probably both get up there and beat me if you'd have just showed up.
I doubt it. I think you're selling yourself short.
Pete's an animal, man.
Yeah, we have fun with it. Okay.
Don't take my question.
Oh yeah, you're up. Sorry.
If you could have dinner with one person, Tim, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Um, hmm. Oh, so many names just keep rolling through my mind. I got to think of a good one here. I mean, I guess I would have to say, like, there's some historical figures, like some amazing leaders and stuff, but the one that just pops into mind is I'd have to say Uncle G, Grant Cardone. Like, there's just some of it is I just love him because I don't necessarily agree with everything he says. Most of it I do, but some of it I don't. But he's just so freaking passionate about it, and like he's selling it like this is the answer. And so I just, I would love to just spend a day with him. Like dinner's great, but just spend a day with him and see like how he really runs operations and what he does. Because that dude, it's just entertaining if nothing else. Like I'm watching him and you can't help but listen to what he's saying. So that's the one I'm going to go with. I
Love
was
it.
thinking of like some great generals of the past, like General Patton and stuff, like leader of men, and like I really respect guys like that. But if I had to choose today, like I'm going to dinner, I'd be like, give me Uncle G, let's go.
Love it. Love
He's
it.
got the conference coming up. Are you going by
I
chance?
know. No, I'm not. I'm not. I got to get to one for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And plus, what I love about him is he just gives everybody so much shit. I've been to a
Yeah,
couple of his
right.
things, and he just, take no shit. He dishes out the shit. It is
Yeah,
just great. It's just entertainment. He's got a great sense of humor.
right.
But yeah, he believes in what he sells, and he truly is helping others, and that's why he succeeds.
Yep. Yeah, I
Because
agree.
he helps out so many people, not only with his books but with his real estate investing returns, as well.
Yeah,
So.
because a lot of the things he says and he teaches are just like they're a little bit unorthodox, but they make sense. And he's not afraid if they're a little bit controversial. He's still not afraid to get it out there and get people talking and thinking about it. And I just think that even that piece in and of itself is really important.
Right. And speaking of that, one of our kind of unwritten mottos we have at Dream Huge is one of his sayings: "Don't be a little bitch." And
All right. Yep.
JP has a hoodie that he got to be him and JP and Biggie got rewarded hoodies, Grant Cardone hoodies. Don't be a little bitch. It says.
That's
So, like you
awesome.
said, a little unorthodox, but
Yeah.
man, it's whatever works for you. You know.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
And it's the truth. It's the truth. When I got the girlfriend pushing me in the morning, telling me to get out of bed and get to the gym, I'm like, let me look at the wristband. All right,
Yep. Don't
needed
be a
that.
little
Let's go.
bitch.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, you're gonna like this one, Tim. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Mm. So here, I'll tell you a funny story. I'm not a big karaoke guy. I've done it before here and there. But last spring break, I was there with my kids and like a whole bunch of seniors from high school just graduated. Like all these seniors, they all know me. They know me as, Mr. Dye, Cammy's dad. Parents, people karaokeing at the karaoke bar. A few of the parents are trying to get me to go up. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Last song, um, they finally talked me into it. I'm like, fine. And the guy goes, we got one more song, and they're all like chanting for me to do it. So I'm like, fine. I get up there, and I did. So you got a picture like we're on the beach. I'm like in a tank top. We've been drinking all day, like a little bit sunburned. Everyone's having a good time. The sun's shining. There's people walking by, and they cranked it up, and I sang "Friends in Low Places." And my whole strategy, if I'm going to do karaoke, is I'm getting everybody involved. It's just a big party. So I'm like working the crowd, and I'm going around and like everybody just having a great time. People coming in off the street like cheering and singing along. So that's the one I'm going to go with because it's the most recent memory I have of, and there is video that exists of this, of me getting everyone involved in Friends in Low Places and people going nuts. So that's my go-to.
We will post that on the podcast links. And I doing his best Garth Brooks impersonation. But I want to touch on something that from that story. So my man Frank Medley, JP, you know Frank,
Yeah.
best guitar player I've ever seen. So happens to be here from Mansfield, Ohio, but he's a great showman as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Frank, how do you always get the crowd going so good? What do you do on stage? What works good? What doesn't work? He says, they're the show. He said, once you realize the crowd is the
Yeah,
show,
it's good.
then you put everything on them. You
Right.
honor them. You feature them. And now
Yeah,
before you
because I'm not a good singer. Like,
right,
I mean, I can kind of sing, but not really. And I'm fully aware of that. So if people want me to go up and like just sing this super like inspirational song, it ain't happening. Like nobody's going to enjoy that. So my whole goal is I want everybody singing and just singing along, and like that's what I try to do.
Yes,
And you know, that's what's worked.
it worked, baby. It
I love
worked.
it.
That's the same thing was like last summer. There was like a biggest splash contest at our pool. Like it's a 4th of July. All these dads are getting up. Like I can't make the biggest splash, and it's all based on the cheering. The kids are all lined up on the side of the pool, and the louder the cheer, the bigger. That's how you win. And so I get up there and I'm just like milking the kids. Like I'm like hooping them up, and they're like starting to go crazy. I'm getting to chant. When I'm jumping in the pool off the diving board, I jump right over by them to totally soaks the kids, and they all go crazy. And I won just based on that. Did I have the biggest splash? No, but I got the kids to cheer the loudest just because I got them into it. And so, you know, all the other dads are like, "That's bullshit, man. Like you weren't even you didn't have the biggest splash." I'm like, "Yeah, but I knew how to win.
You know how
All I
to
do is
win.
win, baby."
Oh, love it. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Awesome. Well, okay. Two more. What is something, Tim, that you fear other than karaoke?
Yeah, I do fear karaoke a little bit. I guess I don't see myself as fearing a lot of things, but I guess we all have fears. I mean, I have a healthy fear of failure and letting my family down. But I think that's what helps motivate me and inspire me, because I refuse to fail, but I'm afraid of failing, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
So like, I mean, it does harm me sometimes for sure. Like when I'll get into ruts where like I feel like I'm failing, and I think that's what you have different people in your life, and for me, that's my wife. She's really good at kind of picking me back up and reminding me of all the success that we've had and how I've gotten out of multiple tough situations with the business, but it's what helps motivate me to not give up. Like I can't let my family down. My wife, she doesn't have another job. We don't, she helps in the business, but this is it. Like we depend on our business to put food on the table and put our kids through college and keep a roof over our heads. So I would say that's probably it.
Absolutely. And in those times, really, like I've learned too, it just takes a little bit of perspective.
Yeah,
Like you
right.
said, knowing where you've came from and where you're at now, and that's a very common theme with real estate entrepreneurs on our show is the feel of there's a fear of failure or letting the family down. So
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think you said it too was key. You mentioned it's a business. And I think a lot
right.
of people get into real estate, whether it be flipping or real estate as an agent, and they don't treat it like a business.
Yep,
They get
correct.
into it and say, "Oh man, I'm going to be able to wake up whenever I want. I can set my own schedule." Well, yeah, but
Yeah,
now you're waking up at 4 a.m. and your schedule is being set by all of your clients and your investors,
yeah,
and you got to
exactly.
put them systems in place and treat it like a business.
mhm.
I'm also afraid of olives. I hate olives. Like I just cannot stand them with a passion.
Black, green, everything.
They're all terrible. It's this running joke in my extended family. Like I'll eat anything. Like I'm open to anything. I like all kinds of foods, but I cannot stand olives. It is disgusting.
Don't go to
Makes me
Greece.
want makes me want to gag just thinking about it.
He just had his mouth water, and now we got him gagging.
Oh,
Yeah.
martini. Don't put one in Tim's martini.
No,
You ruin
no,
it.
don't even do it. Nope, not drinking that martini.
All right, Tim. What is your finally last one? What is your greatest accomplishment?
I mean, I would have to say, you know, I think for me, I separate things. My greatest accomplishment is my kids, and I feel like the way that people view and respect my kids, and what they say about my kids, about how polite they are, and how coachable they are, and what great teammates and how kind they are. And that's probably what I would say is my greatest accomplishment is raising my kids. I think business wise, just creating this business. Like if you would have told me in 2016 when I started this that I would have the schedule that I do now, because I've worked hard to get to where I have a pretty easy schedule now with a successful business and owning millions of dollars in real estate and be able to go on the vacations we do and things like that, is a huge accomplishment for me. But again, life is bigger than business and money. So I'd still just have to go back to, the way that people perceive my kids is I'm extremely proud of that.
Absolutely. All right. Any final thoughts, guys? We are through the rapid fire round. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No final thoughts other than that's a lot of rapid fire questions.
Yeah, well, that's
I
the
think
thing
we
about
I think
rapid
we
fire round.
rapid fired for 20 minutes.
Yeah, sometimes it gets drawn out a little bit, but that's what we want. We love talking on the podcast and having those real conversations. That's when all the good stuff comes out.
Yeah.
That's what it's meant to do. It's meant to draw out that good stuff.
Right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All
Great
right.
job.
So thank you for joining us, Tim Dye. Tim, where and how can folks contact you or follow you?
Yeah, sure. Our primary website is where you can kind of see what we're up to is 614houses.com. That's kind of where we direct everyone. There's a couple of videos and some things on there. People are welcome to send me so I have this bizarre Facebook rule that I don't accept Facebook friends requests from people that I haven't met and had a conversation with. So if you send me a friend request, I'm probably not going to accept it unless I've met you in some way, shape, or form. That's just my own rule. But LinkedIn is a good way that I don't mind staying connected professionally with people on there.
Very good.
If you saw my unconfirmed Facebook friends request, the length of that I have not accepted, you think that I'm an a-hole. Like, man, you got all these people that want to be Facebook friends with you. And I'm like, well, I've never met them, so I'll go back and accept them sometimes 2 years later. Once I've met them, I'll be like, I think you sent me a Facebook friend request 2 years ago, but now that we've met and like had a coffee or a beer, I'll accept it now.
That's smart.
Love it.
Be selective with it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
As many as possible.
What's that?
I said I'm like, as a realtor, I'm like, give me as many friends as possible.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. With people that's your part of your absolute business strategy, totally nothing wrong with that. That's just my own personal, because I do post some personal stuff on there quite a bit. So I kind of want to have a general idea of who my audience is.
No doubt.
Good point. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for listening and watching the listening to and watching the Dream Huge podcast with JP, John Pavlansky, myself, Pete Peterson, and our very special guest today, Tim Dye. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, remember the rules. Work hard, never give up, and dream huge. Let's see the guns, Tim.